I'll be a moderator for this lecture, and let's take 3 questions at a time, and then let the speaker please. So should we set this? Please come to the microphone and then identify yourself and keep the questions short and concise.
I'm an independent scholar and an anthropologist. I was very happy to meet you, Stephen Oppenheimer, over lunch. And I just like to congratulate you that I feel that the genetic alliance we should talk about is actually a very scientific revelation. And the out of Taiwan theory, which a lot of us in anthropology do not really prescribe to, is actually not even discussed anymore in anthropology. I also like to say that when we attend an academic lecture like this, which is based on time spikes and millenniums and millions of years of migration, we can't really relate this to modern world systems or modern theories of politics or modern constitutional or identity crisis or native rights or anything to do like that. That might go into the field of political anthropology or political sociology or political sciences, but this is a different field of analysis, and the parameters of analysis would be totally wrong if you were to confuse the two. So what I really find most interesting, because I lived with a Mon Kimi group on Carey Island for 2.5 years, and they are Austroasiatic, and they are endangered, and probably belong to a very endangered gene line, gene pool, similar to the Penangs and the Negritos. But if we were to say that the Negritos, the Penangs, and the Malays form part of the same gene lines and gene pools, or that the Malays and Orans are very closely related to one another, then how do we account for the fact that some of these gene lines are disappearing faster than the majority Malays right here? Could you comment on that? And could it be sort of maintained or sort of upheld in the majority Malay groups which are there?
Thank you very much for that comment. I entirely agree with you. I would stress that my talk was about counting that. Can you speak a bit closer?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I always have to talk.
Was about ancient migrations, and it was not intended as a political statement. I don't think that anything should be read into it. I think it's important, though, to put the record straight about analysis. Personally, I think culture is much more important than the gene. But if one is going to talk about people's origins, it does help to have a basis in fact and evidence, as Prof said. As far as the second part of your statement, which is about relative sizes of populations, the Orangassi populations form about 1% of Malay West Malaysian population, and that means that genetically they've gone through a process of drift as well. That means they've reduced in their own genetic diversity because they're such small populations, and its difference in relative size of mainstream populations from the Archaic populations, which is one of the main factors in increasing the shrinkage of that very small 1%. As to how to cope with that, I'm not in relation, I don't have any useful suggestions how to remedy that.
My name's John Turner. I'm a new resident to Penang. I'm actually a retiree and not an anthropologist. Thank you, Dr., or should I say Professor Oppenheimer, for your very tantalizing discussion. I'd never actually sat through this before, but it does bring to my mind two questions, if I could. One, you talked about this mass exodus of the gene pool from Africa some 60,000 years ago. Could you give us an idea, either hypothesize or such, as to why this happened? And is there approximate numbers that are given that then infused out into the rest of the world? If you could count that as one question. And my other, maybe a little bit more tedious, why aren't I black?
Well, firstly, I would want to correct your impression that there was a mass exodus from Africa. The fact that there's only a single gene line, African gene line, surviving outside Africa would indicate that it was a very small group who came out. So they all descended from a very small group, perhaps only 250 or 150 people who successfully crossed the mouth of the Red Sea. So I think that that addresses that first part. The question of why is always possible, because it's connected with when. Because it's actually very difficult to get out of Africa. If it wasn't so difficult, there would be multiple exits. And 70,000 years ago wasn't a particularly easy time. And it may be that the people who were living on the west coast of the Red Sea, with archaeological evidence, the outdoor reef, were actually getting less and less seafood from the beach that they were living on, because the Red Sea was actually getting more and more saline, which reduces the amount of sea life. On the other hand, just outside of the Red Sea, the Gulf of Maine, there is a huge amount of upwelling of Indian Ocean current and great beach current. So one of the possible reasons for crossing there was that living on the west bank of the Red Sea was just getting too tough. But that's just a guess. Now, the last question was about skin colour. The reason that people who live in northern climates have pale skin, and that includes Neanderthals probably, only they don't live there anymore, is to do with the amount of sunlight we get and the production of vitamin D in the skin. If you have dark skin, you don't produce so much vitamin D, you're more likely to get rickets and disease in childhood. So that genes which don't make nice dark skin will protect against the effects of low sunlight. So populations that live in northern climates tend to have pale skin because they have these mutations which make the pigmentation less effective. So it's a sort of bleaching mutation. But I've been involved in work on the mutation which causes, the main mutation which causes skin colour in Europeans. But it's completely different from the mutations which cause skin colour in populations of East Asia and North East Asia, where you have the same skin colour as Western Asia. So those mutations have occurred, there are different mutations which have occurred in the ancestors of the Chinese, for instance, from the mutations which have occurred in the ancestors of the Europeans. So it's to do with the sun. And if you don't have dark skin and you get a lot of sun, you don't have skin cancer. So it's a very sharp balance. And if you look at skin colour with latitude, it it changes very, very rapidly going from south to north. And that's actually one of the main reasons in India that you find some Indians have much darker skin, so nearer the equator than the Indians in the north. It's not about West Eurasian invasions of India, the Aryan invasions, it's about the south. So I hope that answers that question.
Jeffrey Smart, we met at lunchtime. Now I haven't got the right terminology, I can't remember what you call it, but there were secondary mutations which created the new mitochondrial lines of DNA, and you referred to, I think, 30 or so, or 26 or something in Southeast Asia, and in the Chinese region only 4 or 5, only about 4 in Iraq that went through to Europe. What are your theories as to why there were so many different lines in Southeast Asia, so few in Iraq that went off into Europe, so few in China?
Probably the strongest reasons for the proliferation of new lines in India and Southeast Asia is climate. And the map showed very habitable areas, because it showed actually the vegetation present at the time that people came out of Africa. And Southeast Asia is one of the most lush regions of the old world. And India, with a few deserts, is not far behind. And at that time, Europe was a dreadful place to live, as was the Middle East, all the desert. And the same for northern Siberia. So the number of founding lineages is also a reflection of the success of the founding populations.
The size of population.
Size of population,
yeah. Good evening, I'm Freddie Hui. My question is out of observation. I noticed that the pictures that you showed, you were looking into the mouths of the people that you met. What was it that you were looking for?
A picture where I was sampling from a child's mouth, and there was another where there was a village chief, community chief of the Saman tribe, who was actually sampling himself. And in each case, this was collecting cells from the inside of the cheek, which contained DNA. And because of very powerful methods of amplifying DNA, we don't need very much DNA nowadays to do sequencing. So simple throat swabs are enough to get DNA from the inside of the mouth, and that's perfectly comfortable. It's not a painful process. Actually, the most important thing about that procedure is to have consent, informed consent.
Hello, Barry Leddy, Penang resident originally from Ireland. But I just have to ask you, who exactly is Indigenous? It seems that basically, I mean, most of the world are immigrants. Are the Africans the only Indigenous people in the world?
I think there are various truisms. We're all part of the same family, and it's a very small family. We're all mixed, because people didn't just stay put when they got to where they were going. There were further introductions, migrations in. So we're all of us closely related and mixed. Obviously there are regional differences, as we've discussed just now. As to the Oxford Dictionary definition of immigrant, Indigenous, it's, I think that's in the eye of the beholder. I think that my ancestor came from Germany in the middle of the 19th century. I have a German name. I regard myself as English. In the 20th century, in the latter half of the 20th century, we had a large amount of immigration from former colonies, and those people now regard themselves as British, and their children will be indigenous. But that sort of definition is a political definition. I think it's something for society and politicians to sort out how they regard people as indigenous or otherwise. I was just looking at a simple measurement of people whose ancestors have stayed in the same place for 60,000 years, and that really is truly indigenous. And in my book.
My question is, you state that Homo sapiens probably moved out of Africa 60 to 70,000 years ago. Prior to that, Homo erectus and the Neanderthal species also moved out of Africa. When did that happen? And then what numbers do you perceive moved at that time, and what was their motivation for moving? My second question is, both the Neanderthal and the Homo erectus became extinct, but I believe it's generally accepted that there was a degree of intermarriage or relationships between the various species at that time. Would you suggest, or could you confirm, what percentage of those people of those genes are still in the current Homo sapiens populations?
Well, for the first question, it seems that the Homo erectus moved out around 2 million years ago. In fact, when that stone axe is dated from the Bengal Valley. And so that Homo genus as a whole is only about 2.5 million years old. So it's pretty soon after the origin of Homo erectus that they came out of Africa. Things were a bit warmer in those days, and the mouth of the Red Sea was much narrower. In fact, it's been suggested that by some people that Homo erectus would have walked across the mouth of the Red Sea. So it would have been easier to get out of Africa in those days than it was 70,000 years ago. As to your question about admixture between Neanderthals and other archaic humans and non-humans, I think the evidence is now pretty good that there was interbreeding between the Neanderthals and another human called Immigrant. We only know this human from a tooth and a bit of finger, so we don't really know what they look like. And those were found in northern Siberia. But it was possible to do complete sequencing, nearly complete sequencing, of the many Neanderthals, but also those teeth and the DNA, the teeth and the finger. And those were several Denisova types. Now, overall, the degree of admixture between these archaic types and modern humans is about 3% overall. And it's more of, in the east, it's more of Denisova, and in the west, it's more of Neanderthals. But overall, it's 3 or 4%. This very small amount of mixture was not possible to see on mitochondrial DNA, evidence or the microbes. And the reason for that is because they only represent a quarter of the effective population of the rest of our genes. And so they're much more likely to, any admixture would be much more likely to disappear in those in mitochondrial DNA and white ground cell. So that was why we never found it. But now with the complete sequencing of the rest of the
genome, it has turned out that we can identify which genes are Neanderthal, which are humans. Now, there's an exception to that percentage that you asked for, 3%. If we look at that part of our genome which copes with recognizing new infections, it's called the MHC, or the major histocompatibility complex, and it's a very variable part of our genome. We appear to have about 50 to 80% of that part of our genome is inherited from these archaic humans. So they live on in our immune system. That's outside Africa. It's not found inside Africa. That makes Africans more, as it were, pure on anatomical humans than sapiens. But our immune system seems to be largely derived from those archaic populations that we interbred with, which I think is the most extraordinary. It seems that these archaics have been living outside Africa with local infections, and they're adapted to those local infections in an evolutionary way. And so we selected after that interbreeding, we selected for those immune genes.
Good evening, Professor. My name is Shamila. I'm just wondering, the discovery, the data presented of this mitochondrial ancestry is a suggestion of us, those who survive, right? I mean, could it be possibly that, say, the migration from Taiwan or elsewhere may be higher, but those populations died because sometimes that happened, or maybe had a less successful breeding rate because that might happen too? Is that possible too? Thank you.
It would be wrong to say that it's not possible. And there is a truism that more of evolution is about extinction than it is about survival. There's only a few that survive. But as far as the out of Taiwan view, we're looking at very large populations over the last 60,000 years in Southeast Asia. So for and the supposed Taiwanese replacement in Southeast Asia, which only occurred between 4,000 and 3,000 years ago, for it to have disappeared throughout Southeast Asia without a trace, or without very much trace, would be very unlikely. But the answer to your question is yes, anything is possible when you're looking at extinction.
I'm Neil Sun-bin. I'm a businessman. It's interesting that you see that diversity, different genetic diversity, and and you just mentioned that if you had Neanderthal genes in you, you had a better immune system. So, from your observation, would more diversity equal to better survival with more population?
And one of the terrible and tragic things which happened during the colonial period was when the Europeans invaded populations who hadn't seen the infections that the Europeans brought. They died in very large numbers. And that happened particularly in the Pacific Islands. People were dying of measles, people were dying of influenza, people were dying of common cold. And that's because they were isolated populations with very low diversity. Because each migration involved going a few canoes or one canoe going from one island to the next. And so each new colonization reduced the diversity. And so the Pacific Islanders were at tremendous risk of dying off as a result of these new infections that were brought in.
I'm Hervé Panish. I have a very simple question. You said 250 people came out as L3. Did I understand you well? Not quite. Okay. What is the net reproduction rate mathematically calculated to explain the number of people we got in Asia now? I mean, you have to calculate. The computer will calculate 70,000 years. What's the net reproduction rate to get to today's figure?
Well, as far as the first part, it wasn't just L3 that came out. What happened was, it's my estimate, 250. But there would have been a number of mitochondrial lines coming out in that first group, because we're all different, and unless they were all one family. What happened after they came out and made their first settlement, probably in the highlands of Yemen or something like that, was that a very small population went on inbreeding over a prolonged period before they started moving on. And when that happens in a small population, you get something called drift. That means that, and that's if there's no new blood coming in from outside, that means that the diversity actually goes down. And the diversity went down to a single line, that was L3. In the past, when they first arrived in 8, it may have been many more, but it was the effect of this small population losing diversity, and that was alluded to earlier on in discussion of the university. And there are mathematical methods of determining how long it takes to drift down to one lineage, and that's how that figure brought up. I think the answer is, in terms of population size, we don't know what populations were, what some population sizes were in different parts of the old world, in India and so on, at different stages. We can make estimates by a method called Bayesian's skyline plotting, using mitochondrial DNA, but they're only very broad guesstimates. But ultimately, you can work out a number of successful generations of population growth from these very small families to the populations which we have today. But most of that growth has occurred within the last 100 or so years. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, sure. Sorry, this question just came to mind. Are there any comparative studies on the migratory patterns of birds or animals or fishes with that of human beings?
There is a comparative analysis looking at founder populations, and that comes up with the rather extraordinary results that the people who first arrived in a region, in a vacant region, are the people who are most strongly represented, the genes that are most strongly represented in the modern population. And that principle has been shown again and again in animals, in plants, because as the ice ages waxed and waned, plants disappeared, animals disappeared in cold areas, and then came back again. And England, Britain for instance, was completely void of humans after the last ice age. But surprisingly, the Y chromosomes, mitochondrial DNA, which is best represented in the modern day population of England, descends from the earliest settlers. And there have been various names given to this effect. It's called founder effect. Some people call it genetic surfing. I prefer to call it founder takes all. or first come, first served. But it is an extraordinary principle that the very first settlers are best represented in the surviving populations.
I'm Dr. C. I would like to make a comment before asking my question. First comment is that it is noteworthy that it is to be noted that in your lecture, you actually identified certain groups, very definite groups like the groups from Taiwan, Peninsular Malays, and Island Malays. So my comment is that if a person comes out and says he's a Malay, there's no way that you can say that he's more Malay or more indigenous or he's an immigrant. Because you have actually identified a Peninsular Malay and an Island Malay. My question is, in your booklet here, you have said that concerning ancestry of Peninsular Malay population, nearly 60% of the lineages are of local Sunda ancestry, and little evidence